Alrighty, well, good evening. All right, we are continuing on our study on God's design of the family, and specifically, we've been looking at, to start off, God's design of the man. And so we've gone through that. The design of the man is originating in the person of the Creator, and we've also gone through that God's design of the man in his primary relationship. His primary relationship being with his God, his Creator. And so we've looked at how man is defined by his Creator. He's not defined by who he is. His authority comes from his Creator, and he has the authority to only interact in creation in accord with that Creator's design. And so we've looked at all of this so far. Now we're going to move on to his primary human relationship. For most of you, it should be page 23, and yours is 17, I believe. But right there, yes. So God's design of the man, the husband, inseparable from his relationship with his woman, the design by which children are to come by. So now we're looking at one of the man's titles, the title of husband. So now we've looked at who he is in his God. Now we're looking at that first primary human relationship that God has designed. So we'll begin here on page 23. Even though a father may not have a wife due to a myriad of possible situations, he is still designed primarily to have a relationship with his God, and therefore is able to continue the act of fathering in the design of God. And I put that there specifically pertaining to the fact that I put the design by which children are to come by. So I may switch some things around. I'm still working this through. But oftentimes we think, well, if I'm divorced, or if I, the man, don't have a woman, or my wife, if I'm a woman and I don't have my husband, then somehow I'm lacking in what God has designed me to be. And that's not the case. Yes, there's an aspect missing. But we can still continue that design that God has created us to exist in, because our who we are is found in our Creator, not in the relationships we have. So we often define ourselves by our relationships in some manner, but we're defined by our relationship in God. So therefore, because that's the case, we can interact in every other possible scenario perfectly in accord with the design of God, no matter in what we find ourselves in. So in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, and the Lord God said. So when we see the Lord in all caps like that, we should know this is his name. This is his name, Ehyeh or Yihya, the God who is existing, the only God who exists. And then God being a title of his, being denoting his power and authority. So the Lord God said, the God who's existing, his power and authority, meaning he has the authority to say this. He said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him and help meet for him." So it is not good, meaning it is not God's design for man to continue to exist alone. Man is finite. There will be things that he cannot provide for himself. It is not God's design for there to be only the male humans, but female humans are also needed. So this is stating God's design for all humans. It's not good, it's not his design that the male should exist by himself without the female counterpart. He cannot fulfill that blessing that God has given him of to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it without his counterpart, without the female him. So it's not good. It's not God's design that man be alone. He's going to make and help meet for him. So by those two coming together and being one, that is the design by which we are fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion. So this is that foundational physical relationship. It is important to point out, though, that just because somebody is not married does not mean that it is not good. Their situation's bad. It doesn't mean that they're missing something. It doesn't mean that they're not blessed or something's wrong with them because they're not married. Okay? So there is individual situations there that we need to be aware of. So, but this is not saying that everybody has to be married. And if you're not, your whole goal in life is to be married. Okay? That goes contrary to what God teaches and what God says. So we have to be very, very careful of that, because then we find our value in those relationships. Oh, I'm not married. Oh, something's wrong with me. Oh, I am married. See, I'm good. And it's a very horrible perspective. So we'll continue here. The man and woman have incomplete perspectives. They were designed to lack what the other provides. Meaning, you have a male perspective and you have a female perspective. It doesn't take long to figure that out, right? It doesn't take long for the guy to realize she thinks differently than me. We have two very different opinions. So, but what God has provided, what God has done is He's made it to where the man needs his woman and the woman needs her man. For instance, you could be looking at, the male could be looking at one side of the couch, describing the couch. The woman could be looking at the back of the couch, describing the couch. Both are saying two different things, but those two things combined give the bigger picture of what that couch is. And if God designed it to be that way, it demands that the man recognize that and treat his woman accordingly, instead of just pushing off something if his wife doesn't agree with him. He needs to take into consideration greatly, specifically what she's saying, how she's saying it, and why, for many reasons. But God designed it to where the woman provided something for the man that he could not provide for himself. Man sees things from the male perspective, and the woman sees things from the woman's perspective. Both are valuable and complete one another. Inside of this, now this is speaking generally, just very generally speaking, because inside of this you have all different varieties of personalities. You have all different varieties of temperaments. You have quite a scale. But generally speaking, you have two different viewpoints, although it could look at a myriad of different ways, but two different viewpoints that complete the whole. So once again, both are valuable and complete one another. God created man, and it was perfect, capable of fulfilling the design of God. And same with the woman. The completion of the two together do not necessitate the incompletion separately. And this is what I was saying in the way of a woman, if she is not married, she is not incomplete until she's married. The man, he's not incomplete if he's single. But if he's married, then he's complete. Hey.
I apologize, we're a little late.
You're okay. You see, by doing so, we create a culture that one is defined by if they're married or not. And then you have a huge weight put on ladies and put on men to get married, and they get pushed into situations they should have never been pushed into. Right? All because the primary relationship, because this is one of the errancies that we deal with, is that the primary relationship today is viewed as the husband and wife. You got to get married. You got to get married. You got to get married. But the primary relationship for each individual is in their God. And when we ignore that and we focus on the man-woman getting together and not focusing on their individual relationship in God, meaning they're not defined anymore by who their creator is, they're defined by whether they're married or not. Right? And a whole lot of issues come up. But so, for example, the Apostle Paul, and I need to rewrite this a little bit, rewrite it out a little bit more, and I've already got some notes to do so. But consider the Apostle Paul. He was unmarried. Was he unfulfilled? No, right? Was he breaking God's design for marriage? No. Marriage is that first institution that God designed for mankind, but it still allows for certain individuals to remain single throughout. Would it be better for somebody to get married? Let's say a lady is single and her only options are men who really don't want anything to do with God, but she does. Should she settle? Something about being not unequally yoked, right? But what if there's no other options? Does she settle? Does that ever make it any better?
You need to pray harder.
She needs to ensure that she needs to trust in the Lord that He will bring who He desires to bring into her life. But if He does not bring anybody into her life, she's not defined by whether she's married or not. She's defined by who her God is. And because of that relationship in her God, she is complete whether or not she is married. And same with the man. Right? So very, very, very important to understand this. Because, right, so Paul wasn't praying harder trying to find a wife. Right? He was seeking after what God has for him, and he knew what the Lord had for him. He knew that he needed to remain single. Was that meant for everybody? No, but that was meant for him. And we have these instances all throughout the scripture. So it's very important to understand that this area can do very much harm if we view it wrong. But so what we're looking at is God's design for mankind to flourish and exist and have dominion and stewardship over all of creation. This is that foundational design. So, once again, the completion of the two together do not necessitate the incompletion separately. They have the authority to exist individually, but it changes once they enter into the man-woman relationship, or what we call today marriage. An irreversible change has occurred, and they now enter into the relationship of marriage. A relationship of any kind necessitates this activity of seeking to strengthening each other in the design of God, and receiving strength from the other as the other is seeking to strengthen them in the design of God. For instance, if I do not need specific relationships to be complete in my God. But let's say then all of a sudden I meet somebody and another man, we become very good friends. Okay, well, I'm okay by myself, but now that I have entered into a friendship with another man, it demands that I seek to give to that man what God has designed him to have through our relationship, and him to give back, to exhort one another and strengthen each other in the Lord, right? That's the design of the relationship. So the design of the relationship with the man and the woman is that exact same thing in a manner, right? So the friend relationship is very different than the marriage relationship, has different parameters, clearly. But that relationship, coming into contact with one another, demands that you enter into that relationship of assisting each other and helping each other grow in the Lord, if that makes sense. So, once again, a relationship of any kind necessitates this activity of seeking to strengthening each other in the design of God and receiving strength from the other as the other is seeking to strengthen them. Meaning, this is the other key part of this. It's not just me strengthening my woman. Well, let me tell you what God, let me just teach you and teach you and teach you. It's not just that. It's also being willing and humble enough to receive help from her, knowing that God has designed her to help me and strengthen me. So I have to be willing and open to receiving her strength. And that is something that as men, we're not the greatest at. I've got this. I don't need any help. Well, I see it differently. I don't need that viewpoint. I see it differently. Right? And it's easy for the man to shut the woman down. But when we shut the woman down and we don't have that eye contact, we don't act as if we are caring about what she is saying, we are telling her that she is not important because we don't really care about what she has to say, or if she already knows that our mind is made up, but I'll let her talk anyway. You see, none of that assists in that relationship. None of it. It's very, very destructive. So the man, God's design for the man is to receive strength from his woman. And part of that is when the woman sees something From her perspective, that's a major red flag, and the man doesn't. And she goes to give that strength to her husband. We have to be willing to receive it. Okay? That's exceptionally, exceptionally important. So, the man was designed to lead and guide his woman and strengthen her in the design of God. And his woman was designed to be a helpmeet for him, or one who comes alongside to assist and help strengthen her husband in life as according to the prominence of him. And here's the explanation of that. Specifically designed to strengthen him in his exact needs and weaknesses that are specific to him. So the woman you live with, your wife, she knows you more, she knows you better than any other human knows you, right? And she is to give strength according to the prominence of the man, meaning according to his strengths, his weaknesses, his needs, whatever area in life he's in, whatever stage of life, any of that, she is to be dedicated to knowing her man and giving him strength in the design of God. Can a woman do that and truly not know God? Can she do it well? No. She can try, but then she's left up to her humanistic wisdom, right? So this whole, I'm telling you, and I was dealing with it earlier, this whole destructive concept of that the woman doesn't need to learn and doesn't need to know what people dub theology and doesn't need to accurately know God and walk with God. Man, if that's our perspective, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We're destroying our wife, which is then in fact destroying us. Because the woman cannot be what God's designed her to be, cannot be an accurate representation of our God to us and be strengthening us in the design that he created her in, if we shove her down and say, no, you're a woman, you're not allowed to speak, you're not allowed to do anything, you just sit there and be quiet, clean the house, and cook the meals. You see, that whole concept is destroying the family, and the man is doing it. And then once again, so what's the byproduct of that? The woman wants to know God. She wants to know about him. And so she'll be reading her Bible as she can. And then they tend to get left to the emotional states, and everything becomes very emotional. And God becomes very emotional driven, or their perspective of God is very emotional driven. All because the man did not do what the scripture says and go home and teach his woman the scriptures. It's interesting how the man is all about the woman not talking in church, but he's not all about going home and teaching his woman what the scripture says and strengthening her and guiding her and walking with her in his primary human relationship. So we can claim righteousness all we want to, but if that's the case, then that has to change. So the man was designed to lead and guide his woman and strengthen her in the design of God. So that's the key point. And strengthen her. We'll get. I need to wait for that. Okay. In the design of God, and his woman was designed to be a helpmeet for him, one who comes alongside to assist and help strengthen her husband in life, as according to the prominence of him, specifically designed to strengthen him in his exact needs and weaknesses that are specific to him. The woman is a helpmeet, not a servant, and not to be used as such. What is the error? Now let's think about this. What is the error? And it bothers me that it seems like a lot of Christian men, their golden era of the home is the 1950s. That bothers me. Why? Because the woman in that picture in their mind is a servant. Not equal with him. Not his helpmeet, but one that's just there to serve him when he gets home.
Yeah, she could be doing that because she loves him.
There's a big difference, isn't there? Big difference. Something similar can be, two things can look very similar, one be horribly right and one be absolutely correct, or one be horribly wrong and one be absolutely correct. But this whole concept that the woman is below the man as far as value is horrendous. It's unscriptural. It is heretical. It is wrong. So she is not a servant. Now think about it. Who's more important, the servant or the master? In any situation, who's more important, the servant or the master? Well, the master is, because the servant's there that has to do the bidding of the master. For instance, in the New Testament, when Paul says, I Paul, a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. The word there is doulos, meaning one who is owned by another. He is owned by his God. And as we're looking in 1 Corinthians, he says, who is Paul? And who is Apollos? But servants. Where he is desiring his master to be lifted up, he is showing that absolute difference in value. But when the man treats his woman as a servant, she learns she's not as valuable as the man because she's a woman. The man needs to know God and walk with God. She doesn't need to know God and walk with God. God really doesn't want like a close relationship with her. That's left for the man to have that close relationship with God. Now, God loves me, but just not as much as the man. God's really going to work through him, not me. And then you have this concept where the man is more important in God's eyes and the woman is not. Almost replaceable. I'll go ahead and say it. How many times have we seen specifically where the wife dies of somebody who's in ministry, we'll just say, and the goal is to replace her as fast as possible so he can keep going? What does that teach the woman? She's replaceable, disposable. And don't say anything, just deal with it, because that's your lot in life. When women see that, what do we think their perspective of God is?
They don't think positive.
It's not good. They think to some degree that God does not love them. You see? So these things have huge effects. And we do more damage than what we realize. All because we want to be in charge and we don't want to be dedicated to what God says. We don't want to actually study the scripture. The only time we want to study the scripture is to come up with a sermon or a message we can preach at people. But we don't want to sit down and analytically study the text because that's boring. Okay, if our concept is that the analytical study of the text is boring, that immediately shows a heart problem. If we find the study of what God gave to man boring or only scholastic in some regard, we have a major heart problem. Isn't it sad we'd rather go off and play games? Think about it. How important is God to us then? See, there's these all of these have, how we view who we are in God has major impacts on our life. Major. That's why we're starting out here at the very beginning. So she is not a servant, not a servant, and not to be used as such. As a servant is not as important as the one being served. She is not beneath the man in value. You cannot find that anywhere in Scripture where the woman is beneath the man in value. That is a vile, wicked, evolutionary concept. But she exists alongside him. Now listen. She exists alongside him, taken from his rib, okay, from the part of the body that is closest to, encompasses and protects his vital organs that are necessary to live. She is there structurally. Is the rib there structurally? The rib's there for structure too. Protection, structure, all sorts of things, right? Assisting her man in standing. You take your ribs out, try to stand. It's going to be a little difficult. She's there structurally, assisting her man in standing as a rib is, for the purpose of strengthening and protecting him. See, as the man, it is necessary to know God's design for the woman as well. We will be getting into that here in next couple weeks. The woman was made for the man, and as such, the man was originally designed to be the primary authority and the definer of criteria for them. This is normally where the men really like it, but I'm going to change some definitions in our minds to make it more accurate. He, the man, as the authority in the relationship. Now, that sounds great that I get to be the authority in the relationship, right? Except that, whose authority am I to give? Do I have any authority to steward and to give authority outside of the design of God? No. I am not to rule her, right? It's stewarding. So we'll continue. We get into it. See, that authority is tied hand in hand with responsibility. Tied hand in hand with responsibility. I have the authority, you have the responsibility. And it's a very, very weighty responsibility. There's nowhere where anybody in authority throws that authority around willy-nilly, however they desire, and lasts long.
Let me say this, Pastor.
Yes, sir.
If a couple gets together and they're unequally yoked, that right there is dangerous.
It is. It is.
Because he would have no control.
That's why it's better
She would have no control of the situation.
Correct. That's why it's better to not. And it would be God's design for her to remain single. So, what, Haley?
Like two sides of the same coin.
Yes.
It has to be even enough to be a coin worth value. And if they're even, then that's like a good chord to be accepted.
Yes. So, the woman was made for the man, and as such, the man was originally designed to be the primary authority. That did not happen after the violation. That occurred at creation. Okay? And so the primary authority and the definer of criteria for them. He, the man, was as the authority in the relationship, is going, now I'm speaking in generalities here, okay? Is going to have that broader focus on how everything is affected in different situations, setting the goals, etc., as he has a broader perspective than what the woman has, in the sense of he's from that leadership position, right? It's his responsibility to steward his family, and so he's looking out in life on how to lead them. It doesn't mean that his viewpoint is greater than hers in any way. It's two sides of the same coin to complete, okay? So, he, the man, as the authority in the relationship, the responsibility, is commanded by as the authority, he is commanded by the design of God to help and assist the creation in the design of God by accurately representing the Creator. Is that not what we looked at, what his blessing is in Genesis 1:28? Right? Mankind, he is to interact with all of creation in perfect accordance with the design of God. Would his woman be part of that creation? Would her man be part of that creation? Would every other human that would be born, would they fall under that blessing and that command? Absolutely they would, because they're created. So it doesn't matter who the person is. It doesn't matter what the relationship is. God has already designed of how that specific relationship is to occur and to take place and how it's supposed to work. Right? So he is designed to give strength where strength is needed. So, once again, I'll go back and read it again. He, the man, is the authority in the relationship, is commanded by the design of God to help and assist the creation in the design of God by accurately representing the Creator. This, of course, includes his woman, as she is his primary human relationship. Thus, he is commanded by his Creator from the position of authority to assist his woman, to strengthen her, to the prominence of her. Now, we'll pause there for a moment. We normally don't think like that, do we? Well, no, she's there for me while I go out and conquer whatever I want to conquer. But this is reciprocal. This is a two-way street. This is how God designed it. So if he's going to, because the man normally thinks she's there to supply all my needs and to serve me while I go out, and I don't really have to, I just got to keep her happy. I just got to keep her happy so she won't cause an issue, right? But that's not God's design. If God has designed it for mankind to interact with all of creation in perfect accord with the design of God, that includes his woman. And it is very sad, that the man normally, he tends to overlook his woman and to take care of everything else. He may succeed at work, often to the detriment of his relationship at home. The world is very good at stealing all of your time and energy and attention and everything for the work. They don't care about your home. They don't care about your wife. They care about their money, and they want to use you for that purpose. It is the man's responsibility that he does not overlook his woman, and that she remains his primary relationship, even at the expense of his job, if that's the case. See, we have to get back to the very foundation of our relationships with one another in the family. This is why everything is falling apart. Yes, Nathan.
Okay, with you and how the Bible talks about not being, that y'all have to be equally yoked and everything. Okay, doesn't God actually know the moment he already has all of it in that existence where he knows when we're going to be born, he knows how our life and stuff is going to play out.
Sure.
Would he not already know that who you're going to be with and how to help you deal with that then?
Right. So you're not really relying on yourself in any of your human relationships. You're relying on your relationship in God, knowing that he will take care of every other relationship as long as that relationship in him is accurate. And by him taking care of other relationships, that's not a passive statement. He'll take care of them by providing us that blessing that he's provided us to exist in, and then we work that blessing that he's given us to exist in. But we can't do that outside of our relationship in him.
And then, with you just saying about how the husband should be like choosing the job over his wife, be there for the wife. Would that go for, say, like the same position that I'm in, like my daughter is in her maid, that I shouldn't make work like everything?
Correct.
I mean, would that be the same thing? Or
your job is a means for living, right? That's what it is. It's not what to live for. It's a means by which you provide for your family. So your family, being that which is of the most value of human relationships, the work is there to provide and sustain that family. Where we get things out of whack is we prioritize the work and job and promotions and all that over the family, and the family suffers due to the job. Whereas, and that's the push that everybody's trying to get you to do, but you have to prioritize your family over that job, and that job is just to supplement your family and to give to your family.
It wouldn't be wrong if I didn't try to work as much as I could to take care of my child.
There's a fine balance. Yes, you have to take care of your family. You have to take care of your child. Yes.
I know I have my parents there helping me like they
Right, but there is a balance to where you work and provide for your family, right? But in so doing, you're doing it for your family, and you're there providing that teaching and training and guidance of the Lord for your family while you're working as well. So it doesn't mean you have to be home all day every day, right? You need to work. Man needs to work. Kind of scriptural.
If you don't work, you don't eat.
There's that. So it's that you have to ensure that balance is always there, that there's always emergencies at work, right? Okay. Oh, they never go away. And they don't care about your family because they're always going to call you for those emergencies, and they're willing for you to give up all your family time to help them. You know what happens when you're no longer there? They no longer care about you. and they'll find someone else to fill that position. Why? Because they don't care about their family either. You're the one that cares about your family. So you have to plan and schedule your life with your work and your family and ensure that the work remains there to support the family while the family remains that priority, right? So we don't want to get caught in the loop of just going to work and going home, going to work and going home. We want to go to work and come home and train and teach and guide our family in the Lord, right? But we don't want to be workaholics in the sense of, for jobs, in the sense of living for money, trying to get every little bit out of it we can. And there's nothing wrong with having funds, of course, but it's that prioritizing.
Okay.
And that has to be worked out for each family dynamic, for each situation.
Everybody's needs are different.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so very important. Let me back up to page 25 again. Thus, he is, now page 26, commanded by his Creator from the position of authority or position of responsibility to assist his woman, to strengthen her. How is he going to assist her? Do you think that means that to tell her she's not cleaning the house right? Or that she didn't do the dishes just right? What could that possibly mean in the design of God? Do you think the dishes really matter?
No, sir.
They're going to be there after you're long gone. Yeah, your goal in life is to not have a clean kitchen. That's not the overall goal in life. Very important, right? So what would it mean from the position of responsibility or authority to assist your woman, to strengthen her? In what?
In the Lord.
In the Lord. Realizing she must have an accurate knowledge of God. She must have an accurate relationship with God. I must teach her, and not as a child, not as you teach a child, but as one who is one with you. I must teach and guide her and strengthen her in the design of God, to help her be all that God has designed her to be. Why? Because I love her. That's what love is. That is the definition of love.
As she does all the same things for you.
Well, we're not there yet.
Oh, no, I just mean like it's.
Yes. But once again, that is not, yes, but that is not the why. See, and that's the other thing. Man, I'll strengthen my woman, all that, because that'll end up strengthening me. And it could tend to selfishness to try to help. And then you have all sorts of fighting because you're not strengthening her accurately in the design of God because you're doing it so that she will strengthen you. Well, she's not strengthening me. Well, she's not doing it right. So that is the byproduct God has designed for me to give. I'm going to say this wrongly. For me to give strength to, no, I'll say it rightly. For me to give strength to her, and she will, a byproduct of that is give strength to me, which strengthens and grows the unit in the Lord. And as we pull the children in with, and the whole family is growing and strengthening in the Lord, right? But the man doesn't strengthen the woman so that he's strengthened. That would be selfishness. See, that's because that, and then we'll start looking to the woman like, well, she's just not doing it right. She's not giving me the strength that I want. Okay. We're going to cry about it, or so we don't want to look at it that way. It's a very errant perspective. So it's a byproduct. So from the position of authority to assist his woman, to strengthen her to the prominence of her, designed to strengthen her in her exact needs and weaknesses that are specific to her. Meaning the man must be actively knowing his woman in life and all of the details about her to be able to give her specifically what she needs. So for the guy, this is very easy for him, to overlook those details. Why? Because he's more concerned with himself. It's very easy to do that. But in order to strengthen her in all of those little details necessitates that I am giving my attention and time to study her and know her and care enough about her to do so. You see, this is necessary. I was going to say something else. Let me see. So all of that which is specific to her needs, all specific to her needs. Okay, does the woman change as she gets older? Does her thinkings change as she gets older?
Mm-hmm.
Does her wants change as she gets older?
Mm-hmm.
Does what she likes changes? Does everything change about her? And I'm talking about her mind, okay? Does everything change? Yes, and same for the man. Which means in order for me to be able to accurately do this, I must be keeping up with all of the changes and everything that's going on. So this, once again, men normally aren't that good at that, but we're commanded to. It's part of God's design. Does God do that for us? Does he know every little thing about us? Does he know all of our strengths, all of our weaknesses? Does he know the next thing that we need in order to grow more accurately in him? Yes, he does. And God has given to the man to represent Christ to our wife, right? To our woman. What does that demand? Same thing. It's the exact same thing. He has to be knowing her. So he has no right to treat his woman any way he wants. You see, that's really easy to comprehend with the foundation we've already laid. But these are normally the man normally thinks he's the ruler of the home. He's the one that decides all of this and that for himself outside of the design of God. So these things have to be brought up. But he has no right to treat his woman any way he wants. Period. We are accountable for our stewardship, every piece. And we will stand before God. Period. Full stop. So, he has no right to treat his woman any way he wants. She is a part of him, his own flesh. She, as being made from the man, is to be submissive to her man, assisting him in being all that God has designed him to be. She is focused on the good of her man. That word good, meaning God's definition of good. Seeking on what God's perfect design is for her man. Right? So, he is accountable for taking into consideration his woman in every aspect of life. So if God has designed it to where the man sees things one way, the woman sees things another way, both of them can be accurate, both of them can be wrong. But God's designed it to where they both see things, they both see the same thing slightly different, and we're presuming that these are people who are seeking after the design of God, right? That would mean that the man would be an absolute fool not to take into consideration, serious consideration, what his woman says. Because she's there to give strength to him. He's to submit himself to the strength she's giving, ensuring that it's actually strength. And she is to give strength, ensuring that it's actual strength. And the cycle continues. So,
how's man not to know that God ain't using the woman to tell him something?
As the man is walking in the design of God and seeking after the Lord, his woman is going to follow in his steps more often than not. And if not, there's all varieties. But normally she's going to be, if they are of one, true one mind, they're both seeking for God's design to be accomplished. Now, if the woman, in some sort of weakness or failure in some regard, gives to him what's not strength, the man is already having everything he needs to know that she's not giving him strength and to not receive it, but then to turn and give her strength that she needs, so she's not giving weakness to him, right? So we're not just both parties, the man and the woman, are not just blindly taking and receiving from each other. It's all verified. We can go to Adam. the woman gave him the fruit of the tree, right? Whatever it was, that fruit. She violated the design of God because she is designed to give her man strength. She did not give him strength. She gave him destruction. The man violated the design of God by receiving that destruction. Do you see? So they violated that relationship role that God designed them. And why did they do that? Because the foundation of it is they had violated their relationship with their God. Right? Now, let's go to the book of Job. And let's look at an accurate one that happened accurately. Right? So as Job has lost everything, his children, he has him and his wife, he's sitting in the ash heap. His wife, who is a very godly woman, or she wouldn't be married to Job, right? And the Lord said that he was singularly righteous. There's only 3 people that God said that of in the text. Job is one of them. In her weakness, having lost all of her children, I promise you the last thing she cared about was her wealth. I just couldn't see that. I can't see that, especially as a godly woman. She's lost all of her children. She's watching her husband. They both don't think he's going to make it. They both think that he's going to eventually die, right? There doesn't seem to be much hope in the situation. And she violates the design of God. She's seeing the man she loves suffer. And she, how do you say that? She, in her weakness, she violates the design of God, and she lets her emotions get control over her in a way. And she says, curse God and die. Meaning she had an idea in her head that if he would just stop glorifying God, he would fail and God would take him. And I don't want my man to be going through this. Just make it stop. Do you see that? And then it's evident in Job's response to her that she was not a foolish woman. He says, thou speakest as one of the foolish women. He doesn't call her a foolish woman. So what'd she do? In his weakness, and he is seeking to remain strong in the Lord, she violates the design of God because she's watching her husband go through everything. And I just curse God, and I won't get into all that. Just curse God and die. Right? She loves him. She's already lost everything. So it's misplaced care and love. And she gets a bad rap, a horrible rap. It's funny because the men that trash her, they stub their toe. They say a lot worse things. So I think that's something of interest. Anyway, but then Job's response is very key. Did he receive that? He didn't receive that destruction from his woman. He lovingly corrects her and gives her strength so that she will be strengthened, and in turn she strengthens him. You see? So when one breaks, the other one's there to strengthen. And if the other one breaks, the other one's there to strengthen. And so when he responds, thou speakest as one of the foolish women, he is showing her in a very kind way her error and pointed. And he is saying, you're not speaking like who you are. That's not you. And in a way, remain firm. Trust in the Lord. Right? So all of that is in those words in a way. So each individual standing in their own primary relationship, which is the exact same foundation, their God. And as one stumbles, the other one's there to assist. And when one stumbles, the other one's there to assist. So that's another major reason for that relationship. But no, you're not. Your primary relationship is not each other. That's why you're not just blindly receiving whatever from each other. Very good question. Is your hand up for the fun of it, or?
Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, so middle of page 26. Man, knowing her design and knowing that nope, I need to back up. She is focused on the good of her man. He is accountable for taking into consideration his woman in every aspect of life. Now, I'm sorry, pause for a moment. Think about Job again, what Job's going through. He stops thinking about his situation. and he takes his mind off of himself in the horrible situation he's in, and he gives strength to his woman while he's in that situation. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible. I think sometimes we're a little too short with our wives. So, man, knowing her design and knowing that she as well is finite, knew that he had to help her be all that God had designed her to be, and that by doing so, she would be more suited to help him be all that God had designed him to be. Once again, this is not the reason to give her strength. The reason is that it is the design of the Creator. But this is a designed byproduct of giving strength to her. Once again, here's a partial example. Well, the example I gave was a lot better than this one. Off the top of my head, normally works better. But a partial example, if I damage my body, I give special attention to heal it as needed in order to get back to healthy. So if there's an aspect, just like with Job and his wife, he takes his attention off this situation to provide that healing that's needed over here, right? So, top of page 27, or whatever page that is, Brother Rick. Okay. The woman, however, was formed from the man. Now, here's some key things there. The man was created from the dust of the ground, right? The male. The woman was formed. What time is it? Because, okay. Okay, well, let me know when it's midnight. The woman was formed from the man. And here's the other aspect that's often missed, and named by him. Okay, so these are two key elements that Adam was always the authority. Now, once again, I try to be very careful going through this part because of all of the errancy that's normally taught in this. Okay, but keep in mind that everything that we've learned so far, keep that as a foundation of what we're looking at as we keep going. So these two actions, especially the act of naming, indicate that the man had authority over the woman. So, being very careful with this analogy, if you name something, that means you have the authority to name it, right? It doesn't have authority over you. A false idea of this would be me giving God a name that I want to name him. Well, what would that be? That would be me acting as if I am God, because I'm naming him. I'm his authority, right? So that's not how that works. But by the man naming the woman and her coming from him is indicative or indicates that the man always had the authority over the woman. The authority, the responsibility. He was always the head, okay? He was responsible to ensure. So what does that mean, that he was the authority? Because once again, we've got to be very careful of that. Meaning, he was responsible to ensure that the woman received from him that which was within the design of God for her to have. As the one from whom she was formed and the one to whom she was compared, he was also the primary setter of criteria. That is, the head and leader within the relationship. Adam recognized, okay, pause there for a second. Okay, we tend to think that him being the head means now she's back here, she's not the head, and he's up here, and he's going this way, like you guys follow me, and she's behind trying to drag everything and take care of everything behind him as he's taking off. No, she's taken from his side. She is the female him. So even he as the head, everything that they are doing is together. Is he just going to have the sight and just take off? Is that the biblical design? What did we just go over? He's going to communicate with his wife as she is also truly seeking the design of God. And he's going to get her insight. He's going to get her perspective. And they are going to move as a single unit as he is the head. You see, if men did this, the woman would be very happy to follow. They'd be very confident in their following. See, really, really key here. Now, so he is the head and leader within the relationship. Adam recognized all of this when God first brought the woman to him. Now, we're going to get into this, the woman's part, after this one. So there's a ton here for the woman that we're not getting into, okay? He recognized that the woman was like him, yet different from him, referring to himself as Ish. That means male. And the woman, Isha. If you notice, you don't have to be able to read Hebrew. If you look from right to left, if you look at the first two letters of each one, you see the vowel pointings are slightly different, and we can get into that, but I don't think it's beneficial at the moment. But you see those two main consonants, those two main big ones there. Those are the same letters, aren't they? So, meaning that all Adam did was put the feminine ending on the masculine word for male. So this is the female male. You see it? This is the female. So I am the male, I'm the Ish, and she is the female me. So he saw that oneness, yet he saw that sameness, but that little bit of difference. So this is the female me. So that's what he named her. So he named her Isha. By recognizing that she came from him, he also recognized that in their relationship, he was the primary part. Now, you have to read this without attaching value. That would be a violation of God's design. So when we're talking about the head and primary part, we're not talking about value. We're talking about the man's design. As if the man is more valuable than the woman. There is no such thing. Doesn't God say that he is no respecter of persons? I think that would apply to the genders as well, right? Okay, so once again, by recognizing that she came from him, he also recognized that in the relationship, he was the primary part, responsible for using all the information available to him to set the direction and provide the fulfillment of God's design in their lives. Notice how when I have the idea of authority in here, or primary part, or something to that regard, what follows right after, or very closely after, is the word responsible. Very key. Nevertheless, he also recognized that the woman was created to provide him that which he could not provide for himself. Thus, he recognized that he was to cleave to the woman in a one-flesh relationship wherein both could provide to the other that which they could not provide for themselves, and yet were designed to have within the design of God. In verse 23 here we have, and Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones." Hang on. When did Adam ever see a bone? How does Adam know what a bone is? It's almost as if God created them perfect. This is pre-violation.
He did, didn't he?
He did. He literally built them in that perfect relationship that he designed man to have with him. When God commanded man and he gave them that blessing of being fruitful and multiplying, replenishing the earth and subduing it and having dominion, he gave them all of the tools to be able to do so. The God who exists would not give a command without the proper ability to be able to do so. Figure it out on your own. No, he's going to provide them everything they need in order to accomplish what he's given them to accomplish. Therefore, they were perfectly knowing everything they needed to know. And yes, they were growing in their relationship in the Lord. They were growing in their knowledge of him, so to speak, but not from the perspective of coming from violation into firmness, but existing in firmness and growing and growing and growing in the never-ending wisdom and knowledge of God. You see, so they're extremely, we tend to think that they were not bright. Oh, there's no way Adam could have written. If God created them perfectly, we can look at linguistically what Adam says. Think about this. If God commanded Adam to do something, that means God gave Adam the ability to comprehend what he's saying. We just saw where Adam took a masculine ending and added a feminine ending to it to change a name. So he knows how to move morphemes. He knows pronouns. They're knowledgeable, right? We think we're smarter because we're alive now. We have some big problems. But they had everything that they needed. So won't get into all that. That's for another time. So And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Isha, or woman, because," what's the reason? "Because she was taken out of man." And then right there on the tail end of that, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Because of that picture of what God gave, of how she was designed, there is no children yet. He has no mother and father to leave and cleave to his woman. You see how much knowledge and wisdom they had. And then Paul in the New Testament quotes Adam, roughly 4,000 years later, roughly. It's pretty incredible. So, now that they are one, they will carry out the design of God for their lives, being fruitful, multiplying, intensively filling the earth, and subduing it. If I can pause for a second, I know I'm running out of time. So we'll probably end there, and we'll probably back up a little bit for not next week, because next week's Thanksgiving. But there are a lot of so-called scholars out there that will look at that word replenish, and with an English mindset, they will think, see, that prefix re means to do again. So God said to replenish the earth. So therefore, before, it was filled before. It's not now, which means it's destroyed. So therefore, between at the very beginning of creation, and that's where the gap theory comes in. That's why they try to tag in the gap theory in between verses 1 and verse 2 of Genesis 1 and claim that there's this big age, and you had Adam was married to another woman, but she rebelled, she did all this, and God destroyed everything. And that's why they say the words that are unformed and unfilled. And the earth was unformed and unfilled. Is that what it says in English? Okay. That means there's chaos. Those words have nothing to do with chaos. They get that idea from that concept of that it was plenished before, but it was destroyed. So therefore it's chaos, unformed and unfilled. You see, but that re on the front does not mean do again. It's an intensive re. It's an intensive. So that word, that prefix re, has a broader scope than just do again, and can give that concept of intensity. And that's why the Hebrew word beneath it is an intensive form of that verb, meaning to intensively fill. See, these things are really, really important to know, because people can get really led astray from that. So once again, now that they are one, they will carry out the design of God for their lives, being fruitful, multiplying. That is why I put intensively filling the earth and subduing it. Okay? Any questions? Thoughts, comments, complaints, concerns? Yes, ma'am.
Nothing, my dog barked.
Oh. Okay. Go ahead, Haley.